Okay, the next thing I wanted to go through with the iPhone app iSaidWhat is how to do very basic edits with your audio file. So what I've done is I've recorded a very silly and stupid audio story here, and you'll hear that it's in two different parts. So let's have a listen. Okay, here is an audio story. This is part one of the story, and blah 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 blah. This is part two of the story. Okay, so my aim is I want to cut out those bits where I say part one and part two and combine them to make what will be a very entertaining story, no doubt. But I want to get rid of all the other audio junk that's around there, like when I say blah blah. So the first thing I need to do is isolate that part of the audio where I say this is part one. I think it was here. Let's have a listen. This is part one of the story. Okay, so I want to isolate that part. So what you do is you click on the snippet icon and just set your in and out points. This is part, this is part, this is part. Okay, so that's the start. And if I move this over, I think that's the end. One of the story. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So, and then click the tick and give it a name. I'm going to call it grab one. All right, there's grab one. It appears up the top there. I'm going to now isolate the second part. Blah, 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 blah. This is part two of the story. Okay, so I want to isolate this part two. So I click on the snippet again. I'm going to isolate the end and go and isolate the start. I think that's about right. This is part two of the story. Cool. Click on the tick again. Give it another name. I'll call it grab two. Okay, so I've got grab one and grab two from that audio file, and what you can do now if you want is you can simply share those what's called snippets, or what I've titled grabs, and over email and Wi-Fi, and you'll get the individual audio files of those grabs. But I want to do something else. I want to actually use those two grabs to create a story. So what I have done is I've also gone and recorded a second story where I say this. And this is part three. So I want to combine this part three onto those other two parts. So I'm going to do the same thing as before. I'm just going to isolate that audio. Click tick, and obviously I'm going to call this grab three. There's grab three. And so now I've got these two audio stories, one there with grab one and grab two, and then this one with grab three. What I want to do now is combine all of those grabs to actually make a new audio recording. And the way you do that is you can pick either or, but I'll pick the first one with grab one and grab two. You click the share button, and this time go to start an arrangement. And obviously give it a name. Let's call it final story. And at the moment, I've got grab one and grab two in this arrangement, in this final story. So if I click there and press play. This is part one of the story. This is part two of the story. And now, obviously, I need part three. So I'll click the plus up the top, and there you go. There's grab three from that other piece of audio I recorded, but also all the other snippets that I've isolated from previous recordings. I'll tick that, and then go OK. And grab three has appeared there. This is part one of the story. This is part two of the story. And this is part three. You can move these around if you want, just by clicking on the right there. You can also repeat audio if you want it as well. So I can just press plus and I can say I want grab two twice. Okay? And there's grab two again. This is part one of the story. This is part two of the story. This is part two of the story. And this is part three. And if you want to delete one, you just trash it. Cool. So once you're happy with the order of the story, then you click share again. And you can email or send it over Wi-Fi, and it will send it as an entire audio file of all three combined.